Welcome back to TFE, a weekly news podcast in which we give our thoughts, feelings, and emotions in the latest gaming, film, tech, and streaming news, as well as other random crap we feel like. I'm your host, Dan Weller, and I've got an important update. Our co-host has been kidnapped, and part of the criteria to getting back is to stop the podcast. So instead, we have our guest Joe joining us this week.
Hello, everybody. I've stolen him. I've kidnapped him away.
He is replacing him for the foreseeable future.
I would say it's an upgrade, you know.
may well be. You never know. Anyway, in this week's episode, we are talking about who will be the next James Bond, and the Squid Game has broken the internet, and the new invasive security drones coming out. But first up, we are going into Stream That Movie News Into My Head and talking about the trailer of the week of the Chucky TV series. Have you seen this trailer?
No.
It's creepy, and the CGI is terrible. I don't know what it is, but the mouth movement of this guy doesn't work.
I was going to say, I'm looking at it now. And it's always been a very weird sort of horror franchise. And there's been some really weird sort of spin-offs from the original.
Yeah.
But it does look particularly strange, this one.
I can't quite put my finger on it, but it's just the mouth movements don't work.
Yeah, I think it looks a bit more plasticky, you know? Like, yeah, I know it's like a plastic doll, but it looks even more sort of odd.
It looks more CGI based and
yeah,
it just doesn't work.
I think it's probably what they've done, whereas I think the originals were probably all very much mechanical sort of modulation. First sort of Star Wars puppets and stuff, like, and this is probably they've just like superimposed a mouth and like it's all that doll's probably not that colour. It's all green. That's just a green doll, and they've just superimposed a face on it.
My other question is, why would you buy that doll? It just doesn't look like a good doll to buy.
Yeah,
so creepy. It looks.
Pretty shitty.
Have they not seen the original Chucky?
But yeah, I assume the movies don't exist in the Chucky universe.
No.
Yeah, but yeah, it's just one of these new sort of like recreating a lot of the old ideas because there's the new Because there's the new Ghostbusters that's going to come out.
Yeah, the new Ghostbusters. People just run out of ideas, bringing back new things. You got Blanky Blank on TV again.
Yeah, the Matrix got TV shows that all redoing them. Like, it's just like people have just run out of ideas completely and just remaking everything.
I think Marvel's taken all the most the center stage of new content.
Well, yeah, it's weird. It's like that is almost the only original content that's coming out, except most of it is all old comics. So
yeah, exactly.
It's very little, absolutely original stuff.
So I'm not sure about the original Chucky, but this one, the whole premise is the soul can move from body to body, and I believe at some point it's going to go from the doll into another human, and it'll just keep transferring over.
Oh bloody hell! That's pretty terrifying.
So, or either that way, or the doll can just possess people. I don't know.
I was going to say, if it can transfer, why would you pick a doll? Pick like a big burly bloke, and then you can do whatever you want, right? Why be a fucking doll that can't really?
Hey, dolls can get into strange places, you know. They can get anywhere.
That's true. Why does it not be an ant then? Like, get anywhere. Right?
Welcome out, man.
The two extremes.
So, why just get an ant crawl up a guy's nose and kill him from the inside? Just start eating his brain.
Maybe. Yeah, you could bring one of those fire ants. Yeah, you can do some damage.
Yeah, more or less. Good do. Well, I actually got no segue. I've got no segue from Chucky to the next topic.
What does it say? Like, I don't know. There isn't really a segue.
There isn't a segue. Right. No, enough about Chucky. Let's talk about James Bond. James Bond came out this weekend. It came out in cinemas Thursday. Have you seen it?
I haven't seen it, but I'm definitely looking forward to it. I think it's got some really good reviews. I think it's it's definitely sort of looking at sort of the initial sort of sales and stuff. It's done much better than Spectre. I think it's a better sort of homage to the ending of the sort of James Bond film. Well, with Daniel Craig, I mean. Yes.
So I actually watched it this weekend in cinemas. We will be having a review coming out next Saturday before Danny gets kidnapped. So check out that one to hear his final few words. You never know. You might even hear him get kidnapped at the end of the episode. You never know. But anyway, this film has done very well at the box office for post-COVID conditions. It's made 5 million on a box office on a Thursday in the UK. So it's all pretty good. The reviews do say it is one of the best Daniel Craig films. I think if you look at Ratings Graph, which is a great website, or IMDb, the only one to do better is Casino Royale.
Oh, I do love Casino Royale.
I've actually not seen it. It's the only one of Daniel Craig I've not seen.
Have you seen the original?
I've seen the original. Apparently that's the worst one.
It's really pretty shit. But yeah, no, I really do like that Casino Royale. It's just like, it's just such classic James Bond, that Casino Royale, Playing a bit of poker. But I think he's like, it's quite funny actually, if you really like sort of look at it subjectively. he's like a really shit poker player, right? Because the guy's bluff is his eyes bleed, like, like, and he doesn't pick up on it. So
That's quite funny.
I think it's gonna be sort of good that his last film is a pretty decent one. So I'm looking forward to seeing it. And yeah, but going on to actually, it being his last film, talk about who's going to replace him. That's quite a sort of hot topic.
Yes, so the bookies have released odds for the next James Bond, and I believe the favourite at the minute is currently Tom Hardy.
Yeah, I quite like Tom Hardy. I think he is a good, but whether he's got that sort of, whether he's that James Bond suave, I don't know. He's a great actor, but I'm not so sure he's going to be like, the classic British sort of spy. I think he'd be a bit more like, he's more like a tough British cop. Sort of.
He
can
is.
play
Like,
that better
like a Cockney, maybe something more.
Than a very slight. Well, I say subtle. James Bond is hardly subtle, but
someone who's a bit more posh, let's say, or a bit more like a suit and tie kind of goer. I think Tom Hardy doesn't give that quite that perspective. Some other favourites is James Norton or Gene Page. I've never actually heard of this guy, but apparently he's one of the favourites.
Yeah, he's in that Bridgerton series, which apparently is quite good. I think I've seen him in something else. He's quite a good actor. So I think he could, I could see him doing it.
It looks like he could be.
Yeah, he's also because he's probably, how old is he? Because the thing is that this is the thing. Whereas people are like, oh, Idris Elba would be great. He's sort of the next sort of odds on.
Yes.
But
yeah, I made this
he's
point.
Quite old. He's not. He's about the same age as Daniel Craig. Really, he's stepping down because he's too old.
And it's a shame, really, though, because I do think Idris Elba would be the next best one.
Yeah, I do. I would love to see Idris Elba as Bond. I think he could do a great job. But Daniel Craig's stepping down because he's a bit old. It's just his, so kind of the same position. And actually, how long would he do it for? That's the thing. He might do one, maybe two. Is he going to do 3 films? Like he'd be like 60 odd, right?
Yeah, it'd be very tough.
Because there's quite
it can't happen. I don't think he is just too old, unfortunately.
Yeah, because you remember it's quite a span between those films. It's like at least 4 years between each one. So we did a multiple, and they kind of think they probably want the next person to do multiple, because then it sort of allows for better sales and stuff because it's more contained. So you can have like a whole, it's sort of setting a universe, right? So you can when you get the new Bonds, you can set them out this whole universe, because you take a look at the change from like Pierce Brosnan, who's like the previously to Daniel Craig, that sort of transition. It's quite different.
Yes, well, talking about different transitions, Boris Johnson actually got in trouble this week for saying next James Bond should be a man.
He got in trouble for saying that, but he's called James Bond. It's sort of, but it's like, why do they want to make it a woman? Like, what purpose why do you want to do that? I think that's the thing. Is are you casting that person, right? So they say they're a female actress, right? Are you casting them because they would be an excellent James Bond, or are you casting them because they're a woman, right?
It's the latter. It's going to be the latter.
Yeah, it's the latter. Like there are very few women that present like, oh, this would be a fantastic James Bond sort of actress. I don't, I think
it's just a suave, isn't it? The name. The James Bond suave. It doesn't work. It's like having Bridget Jones as a man. It doesn't quite work.
Yeah, I was going to say there are a lot of female roles that you just wouldn't cast as men because it just doesn't, that's part of the character. Also, it's his bloody name.
Yeah.
James is, inherently a male name. You could do Jamie. You could sort of slightly shift it.
Or Jane.
Or Jane. Yeah, Jane.
I think there'd be too
Bond.
much outrage. There'd be just too much hatred.
Yeah, and I don't think people would watch it. I don't think it would try and... Yeah, I don't think that's the other thing. Is like a lot of these shows that sort of try and go to this more sort of woke narrative don't do very well because they're too focused on, sort of the symbolization of things and actually not actually doing anything properly. I think have strong female characters in the Bond series because I think that's a good way to approach it. Have these decent characters that aren't just flopping around, just running after you, that are doing their own thing. That's what I want to see.
There is a character like that in No Time to Die. I'm not going to say too much about it because it's a bit of a spoiler, mild spoiler. But I'm not going to say too much. But yes, there is a very strong a couple of actually strong female characters.
Is this the 006? Is she or 5?
I'm not going to spoil it.
Right. Okay. Well, I think it's in the trailer.
But she is a 00.
So, yeah, I was gonna say that's pretty much in the trailer. So she's 00. So I was gonna imagine she's like got a pretty good role, and that's what you want. I think that's a good way of approaching it. If you want these female characters in there, don't just replace the male ones, make their own.
I mean, you could make a franchise out of it. Have 001,
Oh
002,
yeah,
003,
definitely.
and then have an Avengers level threat. We have all the 00s come together.
That'd be a bit mad, you know. That'd be quite cool. I'd be interesting to see if that would actually work. I don't know.
It was
I
not going
think
to work,
it's
but it'd be cool though.
like I said, the James Bond universe is sort of homed in on James Bond and not like anything else.
Never know. You never know. There might be possible.
It could be possible, but yeah, I would say I think I agree. It's unlikely to sort of approach that. Although I think these sort of they are trying to create more sort of universes. They've seen sort of success from Marvel, so maybe they sort of approach it in the same way. I don't know.
Yes, and talking about Marvel, Scarlett Johansson has settled her Black Widow lawsuit with Disney. So have you seen this lawsuit that's been going on?
Yeah, it's quite It's sort of because it seemed quite annoying for her. Like they sort of it's almost like they sort of like wangle the contract a bit. Like, oh, you know, do like if we release it early on Disney, does it actually count as like, does she lose actual sales from that? But yeah, I think it was kind of quite a shitty thing to do from Disney.
Yes.
And them just trying to maximise the profits. Clearly that was, you know, sort of going against the intent of that contract. But it's good that she's come to a conclusion about it.
Yes, so the settlement figure hasn't been released, but it is rumoured to be around $40 million or £29.7 million.
Well, that's good for her.
Which is actually quite a bit, because I think she got paid like 50 million for this film.
So, yeah, she's done quite well out of it.
Yeah, most people forget about that, saying, oh, poor Scarlett Johansson. Well, she did get paid 50 million.
Yeah,
I wouldn't say poor that much.
But the thing is, who would you rather have it, Disney or Scarlett Johansson?
That is true.
You know, I'd rather her have it. You know, so I think it's good that it's sort of been resolved. But yeah, it just felt quite sneaky, sort of doing that, and not really because they sort of clearly knew that was going to cause some problems. But yeah, it doesn't show any chances that she's ever going to come back into the sort of universe.
I doubt it.
For any sort of cameos.
Also, apparently, Ryan Reynolds won't work with Marvel if Scarlett Johansson's in there.
Oh yeah, because they used to be married, didn't they?
Yeah, and Deadpool is a big moneymaker for Disney.
Oh right, I thought it was kind of an amicable sort of divorce, but maybe not then.
No, I think it's actually been quite bad.
Ooh no.
So yeah, I don't think they'll be working together for a very long time.
All right.
But if Disney has settled, it means they do recognise that they were probably in the wrong.
Yeah, or they couldn't get out of it. They probably tried to get out of it. They were like, "Oh, we might be able to do this, guys," but maybe not.
And I think 40 million to Disney is like a slap on the wrist.
They have got a lot of money. They've got a big bank balance.
Well, how much did Endgame make? Endgame must have made near $1 billion.
Yeah, I was gonna say they probably have got a bigger sort of pot of cash than most countries. You know,
Disney is a country.
Yeah, I was gonna say, which is an interesting thing about these sort of conglomerates. You know, look at like Facebook and Apple and Amazon. You know, the amount of like money that they hold is like, you know, they're pretty big on the world stage. If they were like a country, you know, they're big in sort of some of these Eastern European countries.
Yeah, it's pretty mad.
The raw cash. So, you know, it's kind of a bit crazy. It's a bit dangerous. Because like what's it, Mark Zuckerberg like refers to like Facebook. They don't refer to them as users, they refer to as people.
Yeah.
You know, and how fast people from citizens of Facebook. You know, they probably buy an island, set up the Facebook.
It's all nutcases, aren't they? Really?
Yeah. It's
anyway.
It's just a crazy one.
Talking about Disney Plus, Boba Fett TV show is coming out soon, and there's been some interesting developments within the show. Over that, you brought forward to me that The Mandalorian was supposed to be about Boba Fett.
Yeah, I think so. Originally, when they were, when Disney bought the rights from Lucasfilms, or bought Lucasfilms, I'm not quite sure the full sort of legal position. They were like sort of originally going to plan sort of the story to be about Boba Fett. So whether that's sort of, I imagine at the time it's probably like sort of a sort of prequel, sort of positioning it, sometimes slotting somewhere within the Star Wars sort of universe, because there's like multiple films that sort of like, because the timing is always a bit weird with the Star Wars films, actually, where everything sits. But
I mean, let's just ignore the Star Wars films. They're a bit of a mess.
yeah, they are a bit of a mess.
The show's alright.
But yeah, the show, I was going to say, The Mandalorian, you know, one of the sort of the best shows that sort of come out in quite a while. So yeah, I think all the casts are going to return. That sort of they have those two. So it's going to be Boba Fett and what's her name? The
Mailing someone.
That's the actress.
Yes, I don't remember her name.
Yeah, I can't remember the name of the character, but yeah, she's going to. It's basically those two, and it's them sort of exploring how sort of this fall of the Jabba the Hutt syndicate, and sort of how they're gonna sort of take that over.
I've just realised what I said is probably a bit racist because it's not Mei Ling.
It's
That's another Asian actress.
Oh right.
Oh dear.
Well, it's not the two of her. I think the name's similar.
I'm sure it is similar. For some reason, I hate Google. I just typed in Boba Fett and it just came up with Boba Fett actors.
Do you know there's going to be a Ahsoka Tano TV show?
Here we go. It's Ming Na Wen. Nothing of what I said. I got the M right and that's it.
So yeah, I think that's sort of what they're going to explore, which is going to be sort of quite interesting.
There's really not been that much development about this show, so I'm sort of looking forward to what's going to be coming up.
Yeah, hopefully it sort of follows the success of the Mandalorian series.
Hopefully. I would like it to be. I mean, there's a lot of Star Wars and Marvel shows coming out soon at Disney+. Disney is taking over the world on streaming services now.
Yeah, it is the entertainment sort of conglomerate. They really do own entertainment.
Yes, they will be soon overtaking Netflix, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think that's there is this interesting thing about sort of it was the rise of sort of the streaming service, and Netflix essentially made that almost all like media was all in one place. It's almost all on Netflix, right? So you didn't have to go to like multiple different instances, and now there's like multiple streaming services. It's all sort of spread out again. You know, there's Disney, Amazon, and then there's the specific ones like there's like HBO Max, Hulu, and these sort of American ones I'm not quite sure about, but there's so many weird and wonderful ones.
It's much worse in the US. It always has been in the US.
The
US is
the licensing
terrible.
in the US is always.
But in the UK, it's okay. There's only really 3. Now there's, I suppose, 4 with Apple TV. But who has Apple TV?
Yeah, I was gonna say, nobody really has Apple TV.
I think the other big player is probably still Sky or their Sky box sets, which I suppose you could say is a streaming service in a way.
Yeah, I think it's a different player though. It's coming from a different position because it's also got a lot of the domestic market in terms of just like just general television and sort of the whole sort of home packages for like phone and the internet. So I think it's sort of they're not as reliant. You know, Netflix is almost exclusively the streaming services, so that sort of goes down. So that's why I think are chunking a lot of money into their originals, which I think are still good. They've still got some good stuff.
Yes, like Sex Education season 3. I watched that this week.
I thought which was great. I think it's quite an informative show actually.
Yeah, it was a good show.
It covers a good actual range of topics, which I think are sort of important as well, and it's quite entertaining.
It is, yes. Anyway, talking about Netflix shows, Netflix has released a new show called Squid Game, and it has broke the internet. So much so that a South Korean internet provider is suing Netflix over surges of traffic.
Which is very interesting to sort of say, you guys have done too well. You've done too well.
Well, I think they're suing to say, like, our service weren't supposed to be designed for this amount of traffic. It's your fault. It's incredible. Honestly, I was looking for news topics this week, and everything I typed into Google, brought up Squid Game. Absolutely everything. I couldn't get away from it.
Yeah, I think it's really sort of blown up because it's essentially a Black Mirror sort of the episode that's sort of drawn out. So it's essentially just a sort of crazy sort of concept of like you have some money and people are sort of competing for it, but you know backstabbing each other, sort of which is it very much would fit into sort of a Black Mirror series quite nicely. Like
very much a dystopian future. I've also seen it compared to Hunger Games.
Yeah, I guess I can see that sort of the the real strive to survive of people doing anything. So I think it's sort of this sort of desperation, which is I think it's an interesting sort of set series because there's I've seen some other stuff sort of similar, these sort of dystopian approaches to things. So there's one called was it the elevator or the lift? It was the platform. That was it. It's called like the platform.
Right.
And there's like I think it's like a platform that goes up and down. There's basically a bunch of people on different levels, and there's a platform. On the platform there's food, and so the people at the top have all the food, and they will slowly descend down. And so it's this sort of it's approaching. Yeah, it's like what do you do? How much food do you take? Sort of thing. Do you do how much you need to, or are you gonna be greedy? And it's sort of I think it's sort of there are some other shows that I've sort of seen which are a bit like this.
Well, apparently, I think this product or project has helped create 16,000 jobs in South Korea.
Whoa, that's done pretty well then. So I imagine there's going to be a second series.
There's definitely a second series. It's also not a limited series, which means that it is open for a second series.
Well, that's good then. So yeah.
Yeah, so I will watch it coming up next couple of weeks if I'm not too busy, and I will give my review one day and to say if it's as good or bad.
Because I say you're talking about the sort of the broadband side of it, sort of the crashing it. Because I think what I saw actually was actually how Netflix runs its sort of streaming services, and they essentially have these Netflix boxes, right? Which are essentially like these sort of data storages. So they sort of, to have sort of this service that's that big, you need these sort of additional bits of hardware. So they essentially install these boxes like locally. So it's actually interesting to see sort of how much actual infrastructure is needed for these sort of big streaming services.
Oh, it's incredible.
It's like
Absolutely stupid.
yeah.
I mean, even Netflix is making games though. I don't know if you're aware of that one. That was a couple.
They're making games.
Yeah, they're making games. That was a topic we covered a couple of weeks ago. So maybe that's sort of coming into it as well. I'm not sure if it's like the Black Mirror game that came out, or if it's actual games.
Oh yeah, the Bandersnatch.
Yeah, that was weird.
That was it. Yeah, interesting.
It's another one that broke the internet.
It.
It's like Black Mirror, but it is. There we go. Dystopian future breaks the Netflix, breaks the internet. Sorry.
Yeah.
Same with Bird Box as well. Another one.
That's true, actually. Yeah, I was going to say actually all those the silent one. Be quiet. What's the quiet one?
I don't know. I don't know if I know
the Quiet Place. Yeah,
Quiet Place?
that's it, isn't it? Quiet Place, right? What's that?
I don't know. Maybe
that one. Anyway, the one with Emily Blunt in it, right? That one as well. So those sort of shows did quite well recently, didn't they? So sort of that sort of dystopian line.
Yeah. Well, that's enough of our movie news for the week, and we're going into we've lost the controller over the news.
Oh no.
Which means we have our gaming news for the week, and we're going to talk about the Xbox shortages, and apparently they're going to continue into 2022. Who's surprised?
Not many people. I think it's the state of the entire sort of tech market. It's so dependent on sort of microprocessors.
It's depressing.
It's not good. It's like there's so much stuff that's sort of been in shortages, and we see it's almost in every product. You know, from cars to Nintendo Switches to your graphics cards and stuff.
There is reports of cars actually lying in production because they're made and they can't fit the chips in them, so they're just lying there.
They get to the end of the production line, and then there's like one chip, and then it's just sitting there. The car's basically useless.
It's like it's so sad.
Yeah, and then the thing is, some of these things can be so complicated. So redesigning it would take like months, and you've got to like commit to a chip. So if you were to to use a different chip, then it can take like ages. So yeah, it's really sort of mucked up a lot of sort of the global production. But I think because they realise that there essentially is not enough manufacturers of sort of these chips, especially for example, graphics cards with the sort of incredibly small transistor sizes. Basically because all these sort of incredibly small chips are all created on silicon wafers.
Yes. Yeah.
And so creating these wafers actually produce quite a lot of waste. So when you create these wafers, when you make it, quite a lot of the wafer could actually be dead and wouldn't actually work. So there's a certain percentage of actually usable circuits within a wafer.
Yes, I believe this is something to do with NVIDIA I saw once. How they talk about they make their 3090s and then they make the 3060s, the leftover dies from those processors.
Yeah, basically. So that's sort of what, in terms of these sort of creating these sort of these silicon dies and stuff, they've been sort of slowly working for years to get the yield up, right? And they've got quite good. But there's still quite a lot of it you can actually, you can get unlucky and you can almost get nothing out of you can spend, thousands of pounds sort of processing these things and get nothing out of them. And it's only just to chuck them, which is another thing. There's also a lot of waste generated by these sort of microprocessor plants. There's a lot of chemicals involved.
Which isn't good, considering we're in a complete climate crisis right now and wastage is a big thing.
Yeah.
Or wasted energy. And talking about energy, China is making the chip shortage worse due to their climate crisis. Energy crisis, which makes it even worse. So apparently in China they're having to wait for electronic equipment until December before they can make more electronic equipment.
Yeah, it's sort of like a feedback loop, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just
because you have because this stuff is so small, you have to be so precise. So all of this equipment that you use to essentially manufacture and move these things around and place them on the boards require their own sort of set of equipment. So it's basically machines making machines making machines. And so when you can't maintain the machines that make the machines, it sort of goes downhill really.
Also, China has now got these new strict energy quotas for all their companies, and it has meant that all these companies have started to drastically reduce or the production of the silicon, meaning of a curb price of 300% increase.
Yeah, I think.
And
yeah,
that's the raw
it's
materials,
not,
300% increase, which will then be
and so
translated onto all the consumers.
which will almost it tends to sort of almost double this sort of if the raw cost of these things is going up, then this will this is going to be passed on to these sort of the consumers by a sort of a factor of two. So which is not good. So a lot of our tech that's been quite cheap for quite a while, especially the stuff coming out of China, is now going to
be expensive.
It's going to inflate. Yeah. So yeah, it's not good.
Apple's main chip supplier, TSMC, which is a Chinese company or Chinese-based company, has reported that Apple products will be delayed into 2022, which is a big blow to Apple because they like to have all their products for Christmas.
Yeah. I think, this is probably going to end up affecting pretty much everybody.
It's not good.
There's so much that sort of comes out of China. And it's the thing, it's always, a lot of it's just single components. And you lose that one component and you can be pretty done. Because it's very technical, it's very hard to sort of replace them.
It's not that we've actually got a lack of silicon, we've just got the lack of manufacturers.
Yeah, that can produce these sort of incredibly complex chips.
Yes, I mean, what process are we on? 5 nanometer for CPUs and GPUs?
Yeah, I was gonna say that's where most of the sort of the top end is really now. It's sort of that transition. This demand for sort of getting smaller and smaller is actually, we haven't created the infrastructure behind it to build as many of these sort of chips as we need. So
it's not really there.
Yeah. It's not really there, which is kind of like, oh no, what are we going to do?
Anyway, talk about China. The Chinese government has approved 0 games since the new law on effeminate men came into place. So apparently, anything that promotes lesbian, gay, bisexual, or queer, or just men being slightly feminine in a slight way, China will not approve their games. And this is also apparently going into the gaming ban as well, to reduce the amount of time people are on the games due to tighter restraints, the amount of gay people.
Yeah, which seems like crazy.
It's crazy in the Western Hemisphere.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, you think, like, which is weird because China's sort of becoming more, in essence, more progressive, sort of shifting away from the sort of hard communism sort of under Mao and stuff, and sort of coming to more sort of this slightly interesting society, as it's hard to sort of state actually what China is. But this is mad.
Yeah.
I think it's like, what's the restriction? Isn't it an hour a day on gaming?
I think it's 3 hours a week.
Yeah. But also, how do you control it, really? Like, it also online gaming.
So, I can't remember who it was, but there's now a company in America, so in China, that now videos people on the consoles, and if you're on the console for too long, it'll kick you off.
But this must be like online, because you just have a Switch that's like not online. You could play that forever, right?
Surely all new games must have a feature that bans people from being on it for too long.
Whoa!
So it's actually really enforceable. And China's also created a Tattletale service where you can report people.
Yeah.
And
it is,
China is not good for punishments. You don't want to get punished by them.
They are so surveilled?
Severe? Surveillance.
No, I mean, like, surveillance, right, in China. Yeah, whatever the word is.
Yeah, whatever that is.
It's like, so what is it? It's the lorry drivers and like car drivers. So they don't do very well. Everything's monitored. So they do like bad driving. Like, this could be stuff that's like legal, but like bad driving, they like monitor them, and then if they like do too much of this sort of slightly bad driving, they can like get banned from like essentially society. They lose like society points basically, so it makes them harder for them to get like loans or like have a house because they're like slightly bad driver.
Yeah, it's Tencent.
Everything like this.
That's the company. Yeah, Tencent,
right,
a bit of a Chinese-based company, of course.
Yeah.
You might have missed, last week we covered another topic about China banning everything, of them banning their Chinese version of TikTok, where you can only do 40 minutes a day on the app.
It's pretty mad that just there's so much like control, like it's just unnecessary control.
They just want to ban
really
socializing. Yeah, want to ban it.
Yeah, well, it's the spread of misinformation. Well, that's what I sort of
yes,
call it.
The spread of China being a bad country.
Yeah, the effeminate men thing, that's weird. I think like there's like such a range of like masculinity and
it's crazy in the
like,
Western Hemisphere. Like, nowadays you can do whatever you want as long as it's legal, and then no one really no one will really judge you. Which is like,
so they come from the West.
I mean, which is they claim it's to do with gaming addiction. But really, is it?
Yeah, well, yeah, there is gaming addiction is a legitimate problem, especially in some of a lot of these Asian countries, where there's some of these games, there's a massive sort of culture around it, like StarCraft and Dota. These games are enormous. There's actually quite a lot of money to be made. So that's what gets a lot of people sort of involved in it. Especially in like South Korea and stuff, like that incredibly good internet sort of allows you to be quite competitive on some of the competitive scenes of these games. But people do spend way too much time because it's like it's really what is it, like removing yourself from reality.
Yeah. Well, I think most people do that to some extent. Everyone does that.
But like, which is what a lot of entertainment's for. But it's essentially that becomes the addiction because it can be you can get so involved in some of these games.
That is true.
And because I think it's like a lot of people are sort of born with these addictive personalities. And this is sort of, there's the science behind addiction is quite an interesting one. I think we're only coming sort of recently to realise actually what actually causes addiction. A lot of it is, genetic, why people become addicts. And so it's just more, I think for a lot of young people, because so many young people are playing these games in these countries, especially like South Korea, is it just like, this is what they're getting addicted to rather than like, booze.
Yeah.
Would be like they would be like 100 years before. It would be just gaming's replaced that bit. But I think there's a lot of addictive like features of these games, isn't there? Like the design, like loot boxes and these sort of the feedback systems.
Yes, but loot boxes should be banned.
Enough. Yeah, they're not good.
No, they're terrible. Actually, they are banned in some countries.
Yeah, which is good. They're more regulated. I think people are becoming aware, which is good. Like the fact that it's more sort of the information about sort of these bad features of games, and they're trying to control them a little bit. It's good for everyone because nobody really likes loot boxes.
And one game that would get affected by loot boxes being banned more than any other would be FIFA. And FIFA's in the news this week for them having the anime cosmetic feature. You can now buy anime cosmetics in FIFA. This is including like an anime stage and anime walkout packs. It's mental.
Oh, people. The FIFA games have always basically sort of just pushed such like blatant consumerism. Like it's like the games have been almost exactly the same for like years. There isn't much more they've added to the next FIFA games. It's just like, oh yeah, buy more packs, pack openings.
I mean, I hate FIFA as a concept as it is. I mean, it's fine for one game, but it's just every game's the same.
Yeah.
After that,
and because Ultimate Teams, which I think is like the big sort of thing we build like a team, right? But you have to kind of realistically put money into the game to like be competitive online.
Yeah, it's terrible. It's a pay-to-win game.
Shitty.
But I just find it mental how you can now. These aren't cheap, by the way. It's sort of like 1,500 FIFA points, which I think is 25 quid or something.
Yeah, that's a fair bit of cash. And what does that even get you?
A statue.
Probably only gets you like. Is it even usable?
It's a statue you can put in the corner of your stadium.
All right, so it's just a cosmetic.
Yeah.
Fucking hell.
It's so bad.
20 quid for a little statue that you probably won't even see in the match.
You can
it'd be so small.
You can get an anime VIP arena in Stamford Bridge.
Oh yeah, I see this VIP arena. The Seoul one. They just look awful as well. They don't even look good.
No. Oh, and you can also get anime football kits.
Oh yeah, so there's one that's like an Iron Man sort of tech suit sort of football kit. just looks so, it looks really just looks bad.
Yeah.
Like it looks like kind of like plastic. It looks like he's wearing a plastic football kit.
It's a bin bag.
Yeah, basically somebody is basically printed onto a bin bag, and then they're wearing it. Imagine playing football in a bin bag. God, the sweat you would like generate from that. You could fill if you sealed it, you could fill the bin bag while running around. Which is an interesting idea.
Running around with just a bucket of sweat in a bin bag.
Yeah, basically.
Well, that's not the weirdest thing to happen in the week as we go into our next section of Weird, Wacky, Wonderful World. And we are talking about the home addresses that are twins. Yeah,
so I found this one. It's quite a unique sort of article. And essentially it's like, what are the two closest addresses that essentially have the same, they have the same road name and the same like number, right? So like 5 Station Road or whatever. That's like an example they give. And essentially they sort of slowly find closer and closer addresses. And what these guys found is he essentially found two houses which are next to each other, and they're basically both on like Manchester Road, and they're both 443. The reason is because one is in Bolton and one is in Salford, and they essentially have the exact same address, and they sit they're next to each other. And the councils are sort of like refusing to change it. So they've complained to the councils and like, can we change our numbers? They think they've gone no.
It's so
Which
close.
is like, yeah. So basically, I can imagine like deliveries must be a nightmare because it depends which way the delivery driver comes from, right? Because he's going to stop at the first one. So if the delivery centre's like to the north and they're all coming through, it was just going to stop at the first house, and this one guy's going to get all the deliveries.
That's insane. Why won't they change? I suppose it's that common stalemate. It's like, no, it belongs to us. You must change.
Yeah. I think there's this petty sort of council culture in the UK, but also it's the fact that so many of our street names are just the same, like repeated. Like some of the other examples, like they're like a couple of streets away, but it's just like the fact that these streets are like probably a kilometre away or something, or less than that, and they're just the same street names repeated. It's just so lazy. It's like George Street, that's like, 500 metres away from another George Street.
I think, yeah. I mean, look at our high streets. It's always High Street or something, a variation of that. It's all the same. Mind you, America's names, 10th.
Like the close, just the close. It's like there's so many. Oh, you guys going to say America? America don't even have any, which is like good because it's easier to navigate, to be fair. Because then it 42nd Street to go to 41st Street, it's just up the road. You can work it out, which is quite, if you're navigating on foot, it's much easier.
No, but the problem with that is they sprinkled in actual names in there.
Oh yeah, that's true, yeah. Then you suddenly, it's like the
go
boulevard.
41st, something else, 42nd.
So I was going to say, if the next one's the boulevard, is the next one and then the number of the previous one, or is the boulevard actually count as like 44th Street?
I don't know.
Oh.
Yeah, I think the whole world just can't name streets. It's too difficult for them.
Somebody's probably come up with a decent system, but we're yet to see it. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe let's get resolved one day, but who knows?
No, but maybe that'd be our mission. Like, our mission in life is find a good way of naming streets.
Maybe we start a petition.
Or I can say there's that what's it? The what three words thing. We could do something.
Oh
like that.
Yeah, I've had that. Yeah, that's a cool
split
thing.
We could split all the streets into like random code names. I live on.
Would that
Apple...
not be more difficult to navigate all the posts?
No, it'd be cool. It'd be cool because you can be like like the native alphabet sort of thing. Like I live on Alpha Tango Tango. Oh yeah. So I'm 21 Delta Foxtrot Emu.
You don't even numbers because it's 1 meter squares, isn't it?
That's true, actually. Yeah.
You wouldn't even need a number. You just need
your house is split between phone, banana, telephone box, and brick wall, chest of drawers, sponge.
Actually, that makes it so much easier.
That's my house is split between these two tiles.
But think about how much easier it'd be now if you had to type in your address for a parcel or something. You just have to type in 3 words, and then they know where to put it. No postcodes.
That's true.
No addresses. Yeah. No numbers. No street names.
Yeah, that's true, because then you can specifically say which area of your sort of front garden you want your package in. I was like, I was just towards the front of the garden, please.
I want it in this exact location.
Yeah. Because I've got like some bins. They always leave it behind there. So I can say specifically, leave it in the bin square. the meter's bin square.
Leave it in the bin. Not on bin day.
Well, they've done that. They literally have put my package in the bin. And it was like, because my bins get collected like a Friday. So like, it was on a Friday. So my it could easily be taken out. And I wouldn't have known. It was just like, why would you put it in the bin?
That's quite funny.
Like, I know I don't want it getting wet, but like,
don't put it in
the bin.
Put it
in the bin. Like, don't put it in the bin, man.
Oh dear. Well, our next story, or final story for the Weird, Wacky, Wonderful World, is another one you brought in.
To finish this off. Yeah, it's another one that I saw, which is about. So there are these Lime scooters, right? So in the UK, this is quite a hot topic because these guys, because there's no actual legal position in the highway codes, which essentially is what rules the road in the UK. So they're all technically illegal, right? And so these guys can go like on the pavement and on the road, and they always do stupid stuff.
Yeah, they just like leave them everywhere, don't they?
And they leave them everywhere. They leave them just like on the crossings. So like
Leave them out of
people
the
like
road.
who are
Leave on a
like, is
roundabout.
anyone that's like anyone's on like a wheelchair or is it got like a pram where the sort of the pavement dips to sort of allow them easy access to cross the road. They can just put them there, and then they're just sort of it's like, and also these things are like heavy, right? Because they've got these big sort of batteries at the bottom, and they're all like box steel, so they weigh a lot. So you can't move them.
No.
And they also like I think the brakes probably lock, I imagine, so they're a little bit harder to move. Yeah, so that they are a bit of a nightmare. And they're sort of I think they're slowly managing them better. But anyway, this story's about they have in order to use them, you have these QR codes, right? And the way they've like implemented it on these scooters is they basically printed out a bit of card and then put a bit of acrylic on top of it, right? So people have been essentially ripping this acrylic off and then just taking the card, which renders the entire thing useless. So because they can't get the activation code for that specific scooter, so they're basically a bunch of bikes and scooters lying around London and like Bristol, which you cannot use. So they're all useless.
It's quite funny.
Which is just quite funny. It's I think for a lot of people, like these things are quite a nuisance because people don't quite know how to use them properly.
I think it's a good idea, but it needs regulating.
Yeah, I think it's regulating, and they probably could be okay in the bike lanes and stuff. On the actual road, it's harder because the problem with these scooters is they are not the most stable things. So if you hit anything, you're kind of done.
You're
and
dead.
Some UK roads are pretty shoddy. So if you hit like a slightly bumpy road, not going well. And like a lot, because I've used these in like Europe, in like Prague. As Prague's like a very medieval city, because it wasn't really destroyed during the war, right? So essentially most of it's kind of as it was. So there's a lot of cobble streets, and so you're on these scooters going down them, and you're like, oh, and they're not very practical compared to like a bike. You could quite easily sort of, because the wheels are so much larger, just.
I suppose that is true. It's like no suspension or anything, is it? Just go.
Yeah, I was gonna say if you've got like a mountain bike or something with suspension, or just big tires, because they've like, also these tires are like hard, right? They're not like your.
They're not soft rubber.
Yeah, there's no compliance to them, so it can be anything that's sort of not a perfectly smooth road is not fun.
So apparently, to do with this shortaging, Manchester lost 10% of its fleet every month.
That's great.
Due to vandalism.
We will slowly take all of the QR codes out.
It's quite.
Can I say because what they probably should have done is like laser cut the QR code onto like the top, so like etch it on.
Yeah, that would make sense, wouldn't it?
I was going to say that's probably the reason they don't do that is because it's probably easier to sort of set up if you can just print them out. And I imagine there's like. It probably is slightly harder to manufacture if you do it like that, because I imagine these are like kind of stock, and there's probably multiple different companies buying it from like a single entity that are manufacturing them. I imagine that's why they sort of done it like that. But basically, what's going to happen next is they're going to have to engrave them onto them, and people are going to go around with like files.
It'd be Sharpies. Let's get Sharpie with it.
Yeah, like Sharpie over it. Get your file out.
Yeah,
like a bastard file. File it down. Because you only got to remove a couple of those squares, because I don't actually know quite how QR codes work.
You can just draw a line over it, and it makes it redundant. I
was going to say it's probably quite. You don't have to remove that much of the QR code to make it like not work with the app.
Yeah, it's like a barcode. If you're missing a little bit of it, it's not going to work.
So you just move. Yeah, you just add an extra square, and it's done.
Well, talking about stupid tech that goes into our world, we're going to our next segment of tech time and science shenanigans, but there's not so much science this week. I was trying to find out, but all I find is photos. There wasn't much to talk about. Instead, we're going to go into the new security drones that invade your privacy. And we're going to first talk about Amazon's Astrobot.
Well, you say invade your privacy, but you allow them in your homes. They're not like coming in regardless. They're not like Amazon like fly these drones into your house.
Yeah, you will have
little drone flyby. Yeah, but yeah, they're quite interesting because there's one with like a face on it. It's like the dog bot. That's what they call it. So I'm actually so they sort of go around your home. So there's this dog bot, and then there's essentially a drone one, which is sort of like. I would describe it as essentially a TV remote with a camera on it, that sort of size. And then they basically just sort of stuck a box fan on top.
Yes.
So it basically looks just like a T, essentially a T shape.
So for those who haven't stuck around with us for that much and are new to this podcast, long time ago, last year, we covered this topic of this being a Kickstarter, of it being completely ridiculous. But now it is available in the US if you're invited.
Well, that is the magic of Kickstarter, the amount of stuff that like somehow gets done, and then it just doesn't come through. But this, Amazon they've really done it this time. They've produced it. They've done what a lot of Kickstarters have failed to do.
Yeah, so I think it's both Amazon, both these products. One's Ring, the subsidiary of Amazon. The Ring drone will fly up in the air when you leave, and it will survey your house by floating around. And when it takes an intruder, it will just follow them around your house. I don't know what's stopping the intruder from getting a baseball bat and knocking it out the house.
Well, I don't know. If you've got high ceilings, and if this thing's quite manoeuvrable, which it doesn't look like it is, you could probably just dodge around a bit. It's like if it just goes to the top, like it's gonna be quite hard. If it just goes to the top of your house and then just skeets around quickly, or you get multiple, which is like I think it's a great suggestion of like you get like 5 of these things and they're just buzzing around your home like bees. Like a swarm of Amazon Ring drones. And your casual burglar's going to be like, oh, fuck this, mate. They're not going to want to.
Well, you might not want to do that because they are very expensive, at costing up $250 a drone.
It's a bit, but I thought they would cost more than that. I thought these things would be like $1,000 each.
I think Ring's expensive, isn't it? Ring's like 200.
Yeah, so those Ring doorbells are like 200 quid, aren't they? Or like they're at least like 150 or something. They're a lot. Like,
they're a lot for what they are. I mean, a drone's. Yeah. I think a drone's worth more money than a doorbell.
Yeah, I would rather have this Amazon drone than like what is essentially a button and a camera.
Yeah,
for 150 quid.
Something anyone could make.
Yeah, it wouldn't be. Yeah, I was gonna say there's probably some quite decent knockoffs because it's so simple.
And the Astrobot.
Yeah,
as well.
just goes.
So this one is part of Amazon's Guard service, which is $5 a month, and this whole device is meant to be a suitable device for all the family to help older people, help when they've left their cooker on, or to be a table for children to play on. Imagine that being that.
What is this? Is this the dog one?
Yes, the Astrobot one.
A table?
Yeah, it can turn into a table.
It can turn into a table?
Yes.
Oh, is that the screen?
Yeah, so the front screen's got the eyes. It can turn into a table, yeah.
But is that a display?
Yes.
I assume. So you can't put your tea on that, can you?
I don't know, maybe you could.
Because that's like some good heat resistance, if we can do that.
This one, I think, is around £5,000.
Oh, that's a step up. You could get a lot of those drones for that. Yeah. I'd rather get like a couple of those drones for that price. But it is essentially your own canine, so...
That is true, but I'd still rather have a Boston Dynamics dog.
So you can just kick it over and it'll get back up?
Yeah.
I want to get a Boston Dynamics dog just to kick it over every time I walk in. Just barks at you and just kick it over. Because that's all they seem to do with those robots. It's just abuse them. Like, they hit them with sticks, kick them. Like, it's like... They're very horrible, those Boston Dynamics guys. Have you seen that there's a great edit actually of the Boston Dynamics robot, which is basically it's like an edit that give it a gun and it just starts shooting.
So
it's
the dog robot apparently has facial recognition software, so it can detect if it's an intruder through facial recognition. There's also optional extras such as Alexa compatible tablets and thermosensors to detect fires. I wasn't talking to you. I was talking about my Echo.
Is this your real dog?
That was my Echo. Started talking up.
Oh, you're okay.
It hurt me too much talk about Amazon.
Oh, your Amazon Echo has just gone, I hear. I'm being replaced. Oh, no.
But it does raise an interesting question there about cameras in people's homes. I remember Mark Zuckerberg once said, oh, people should never have a camera in their home. And then a year later released Portal.
Yeah. Although, these tech guys are always just going to... They won't do it, but a lot of people will. But yeah, because there was that whole Amazon sort of... The Amazon locks, wasn't there? Where, like, you could unlock your home for, like, Amazon services to come in. So, like, if you wanted to get your home cleaned by, like, an Amazon, like, officiated thing, you could essentially unlock your home. They could come in and clean your house. And then you could then... It would tell you when they've left, right?
Yeah.
But it's But the problem is it's just going to be hacked, isn't it? Like, something like that can just be so easily hacked.
Same with all these drones
If I
as well.
can-
Wait, imagine the swarm of
Yeah.
drones get hacked.
And then they rob your house. Because there's going to be some feature where they're going to be able to pick up stuff, and then that's it.
Yeah.
People's houses are just going to, their drones that are protecting them are just going to be taking their phones out of their house.
Once, but when we talked about this before, Danny was saying about there being like a machine gun on the bottom of the drone, because in America someone's going to attach like a shotgun to
right.
it and fly a shotgun over
true.
to somebody.
I think somebody's done that. Didn't they put like a sword on the drone or something? They desperately need some people to put weaponry on the drone, because there are those flamethrower drones. Have you seen those?
I haven't seen those ones there.
They're for like on like power lines, when like somebody's t-shirts somehow got onto the power
It's
line.
when a bird. It's those annoying
like-
birds get on the power line.
Yeah, they basically like burn the fabric and stuff. It's quite cool. I think they're like in China and stuff. I think it seems to be like in an Asian country. I think
Yeah,
it
someone's
looks like
hacking
China. Yeah, that's the thing, is you've got to be careful that somebody's hacking the flamethrower drone, because that could probably do some damage. And it's big as well. That these things are like, the size of a person. Some of these sort of size drones.
Yeah, it's all quite mental. So going on from one stupid thing to another stupid thing, USB-C is in the news again, and USB is doing its USB thing of changing their naming conventions.
Yay!
And
Because now we don't know what anything's called.
Yes, and now there's another one. There's USB 2040, or USB 4, 40 gigabits per second. And also USB 4.
that's
There's
not
just so many
confusing.
names. It's so stupid. I don't know why USB keeps doing this.
Yeah, I don't know why they don't just stick with like just go USB 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Like, come on, guys. And it's all marketing. I think that's the reason. Marketing have gone, if we add big numbers, it sells. So the tech guys are like, all right, I don't think it seems sensible, but you're marketing, so.
The stupidest thing about this is USB is going to be one connector, and then they have loads of variations of that same connector to completely
Yeah.
eliminate the point of it. Well, this is pretty
Well, yeah,
cool,
it's
though.
all-
I don't know if you've seen this, but the
Yeah.
240 watt stuff.
I haven't, but I am definitely interested in it now, because I think this sort of USB-C sort of it's almost like a USB-C project, right? Of sort of trying to essentially create a standardized connector for everything. It's really good. I think it's sort of the EU regulation now that all phones essentially have to have USB-C. I think that's going to be beneficial for everyone.
Yes, there's other news
unless
about
you're an Apple, unless you're Apple.
Yes,
but-
there was other news about that last week as well. So all phones in the EU won't be able to have a charger in the box, which I know big companies aren't doing already, but they will be banned
yeah.
officially in the EU. Also, people
Yeah.
won't be able to sell I can't say the word. Chargers that belong to their own company.
Proprietary.
That's the one. I can't say it.
Yeah, that's the word. That's the word today.
I still can't say it.
Propriety.
Like they can't sell
Yeah,
those
just-
chargers anymore. So the Xiaomi 65-watt charger is banned. It has to have the USB PD protocol.
Right.
And
I was going
wireless
to say,
charging.
now that this protocol's increased and stuff, it's probably right then. They don't really need their own protocol.
Yes, and wireless charging has to be Qi charging. So they all bans their own things. And it's all to have just standardized
Yeah.
connectors, so it just removes wastage, basically.
The wireless charging one I think is more interesting, because that kind of eliminates sort of having innovation though. I think that's a little bit where I could see where, because wireless charging isn't like as well defined. I think there's still a lot to learn about wireless charging, and there's different ways of doing it. So
I think
would say
the way
that's
we have now
kind
should be
of-
banned. Like, what's the point of it? It doesn't do anything. It just
Oh, it's true. Well, I think it's not useful for phones really at all. Like it's just a less efficient way of charging your phone. It looks cool, maybe. I don't
it's cool to
know.
have it under your desk, and you just
Yeah, I was
slap
gonna
your
say
phone on
it
the
can be
desk
cool
and
to
then-
put your phone on the desk and it charges. And I think some people that can be quite useful if they forget to charge their phone all the time. I think the technology where it's going to be useful is in like cars and stuff.
Yes.
So
yeah.
whether if you can get the phone stuff, because there's probably some people that are quite into like wireless charging the phone. If the demand's there and people want wireless charging on their phones, some people do. And if we can get the tech there, and so if there's money to be spent on it, I'm not complaining about it. So I kind of think it's sort of removing the innovation that could come from it.
Yes, well, Apple did
which
make
could
this
be
claim.
useful.
So Apple said about the USB-C side, saying it is stifling innovation to do with phone chargers and stops new phone chargers from being made. Now, I would sympathise for their cause if Apple had made a new phone charger since the Lightning port.
It's true. I was going to say, this is a very relevant point. I think it goes back to what I was saying before about the wireless. But what are they going to do realistically? They're not producing anything better. But
I
whether
think
they could
USB-C
do,
is good. Having USB-C as a standard connector is the right thing to do
Yeah.
because that USB-C is perfect.
I was going to say, the connector I think it's not really. You're not really going to have anything in it. You're not going to have any innovations there really for quite a while. And I think anything that's going to come out of it will probably be then the next USB-C sort of, or the next connector type.
Well, USB-C can actually do everything. It can. There's nothing it can't do.
You could argue the protocol. You could have some different ways of approaching it there, which could be useful for some people.
Well, no, but just have the connector.
Having a standardized connector, it's just a standardized connector. I think is just beneficial for everyone. I think even if you lose some innovation there, I don't think you're losing anything amazing. I wouldn't say there's anything that could change the connector that much that we would be losing out on it. And if Apple finds something amazing, then they can give that to the EU and say this will become the standardized connector. And everyone else has to change their Apple's sort of amazing new connector. Doesn't mean that they can't do it, but yeah, it does make it. There's less incentive there, but I think it's good to have these sort of standardized connector for everyone.
Absolutely, yeah. So it's all good news in a way.
Yeah, because everything, your phone, your headphones, everything will all be on a sort of USB-C, and then maybe it's just some other stuff as well.
Never know, maybe DisplayPort and HDMI will go one day. It'll just be USB-C everything. You have one USB-C connector going to everything.
That would be cool. One USB-C to rule them all.
One connector to rule them all. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's got the form to do so.
Maybe it will do. And then
I was going to say, can you do because there are USB-C monitors.
Yes, there is now. Yeah.
Can you do power and data?
Yes.
Because that is mad. So you need one cable.
I think so. Yeah. Now you can. So previously you couldn't because of the power. But now you can do...
Yeah, but 240 watt. I imagine you can just do
monitors. You can do 240 watt at 40 gigabits per second.
Cool. I'm going to get some USB-C monitors that can do that. I want one cable for
it's never going to replace kettle leads, I don't think, for certain things. But
Oh, yeah, that's just the thickness of the connectors. That's like a physics problem.
Yeah.
So it's not going to replace your PC power supply is not going to have USB-C.
No, that will always be kettle lead.
That's fairly... But that's okay.
And then our final news topic of the evening is Samsung has gotten rid of all of their ads. And as much as that is a bit of a niche topic, I think it's just interesting to talk about a company getting rid of ads.
Yeah.
A money-making scheme
based Samsung. That's great.
Yeah.
That's what we like to hear.
Getting rid of the bloatware.
Oh my God. It's just like apps and stuff these days. Because I remember when I was first had sort of an Android phone and I was on a really dodgy Samsung Mini or something. Yeah. But most apps, almost most like a lot of the apps I used probably back then was games and stuff, and very few games actually get any ads on them at all. You go on any game now, it's an ad every 15 minutes. You have to wait for 5 seconds to play the game again.
It's so stupid.
Yeah, it's it's so annoying, but you can see why they ads are important, right? But when it completely ruins the experience of the app, which is essentially what a lot of the way the advertising works and a lot of mobile stuff, it's just quite annoying.
But I think it's good to see it going a step back. Maybe we have not lost all of our privacy in the world.
Yeah, I think YouTube and stuff, when you're watching a YouTube video and there's an ad at start, I think that's fine because you're sort of not really, you're only having ads every so often, right? And it really doesn't affect the content. But when you're using these mobile apps, some of them will essentially become unusable because you click an option and then if you click an option again, it will then produce an ad. So any sort of, it's almost click based. How much you use the app induces how many ads you get. So it's
that's true actually. Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
it's awful. Although I was annoyed about YouTube having 2 ads at the start of a video.
Yeah, and also ads are on everything, isn't it? Because they've changed that now. Because it used to be only ads would come on YouTube videos when they were enabled, right?
Yeah.
So you could disable ads on your videos, there wouldn't be any ads on them. And so now YouTube has created it so that every video has ads. So when you disable it, it just disables you getting revenue from them, but YouTube will still get their money because the ads are still there. So it's kind of a bit, it's just, I think Google's relationship to YouTube is an interesting one. I don't think they particularly like owning YouTube entirely. The reason they have YouTube basically is because it's an enormously good marketing tool. And that's essentially what Google is essentially in. Google is for advertisement marketing. Essentially most ads are run by Google and stuff. So that's really where almost most of their revenue is generated from sort of marketing and adverts. And then everything else is sort of almost a side project to sort of that main part of the business.
Yeah. Well, that is it. That is the end of the show. Thank you for listening. Yeah. If you've made it to the end, I applaud you. congratulations. You've probably done what very few people actually do. So please leave a like, review, comment, tell us what you liked, what you didn't like, how we can improve, send us an email, tweet at us when we don't check our Twitter, but go for it anyway. And get hashtag beans bang your mum trending on Twitter. We're still trying to do that.
Yeah. Do those hashtags, boys.
Please. And we will see you next week, where Joe will be joining us again. Well, hopefully anyway. He's not being kidnapped.
Yeah, we never know. There might be a third person coming in.
You never know.
All right. Cheers.
See you next week.
Bye.